Welcome to Minerva, a monthly show where we discuss the mysteries. We hope to give you enough information that you can go away and do your own study. Now I'd like to introduce my co-host Duncan.
Hello.
Today we're going to be discussing Lincoln Cathedral.
Oh.
Now, why would we discuss Lincoln Cathedral?
Random building.
Well, it's not, because there is a mystery built around it. And around the time of Dan Brown and the Da Vinci Code and all of that uprising in mysteries, another one came to fruition, which was the murder of Mary Magdalene, which apparently took place in Lincoln, and she is buried there. Now, that's the story that you would believe if you believe Dan Green's writing. That's not his real name, but it's it's a play on the Dan Brown thing, which is very clever, and at the time I'm sure helped promote the book. However, the gentleman behind this is very sincere in his research, and he genuinely believes that there is a mystery around Lincoln. So it's certainly worth us having a look into. Now, I'll tell a little story about this because I went to Scotland about 6 or 7 years ago and actually got engaged to my partner there, and had just watched the documentary prior to going. And on the way back, she said, let's find somewhere halfway between Scotland and England, London, sorry, that we could stop for a bit of lunch, have a walk around, stretch our legs, etc. And of course, looking at the map, Lincoln jumped out to me because I'd just seen the documentary, and I thought, great, we can do that. I can look around the cathedral and see what I think. Coming across the Scottish borders, I thought, I'll just see if I can get hold of the book somewhere locally. Couldn't find anywhere, so I messaged Dan Green from his website and said, I'm trying to get hold of your book today because I'm going to go to the cathedral and I'd like it as a reference tool. Is there anywhere I can get it? And he said, no, you'd have to get it off Amazon. Obviously, that doesn't work for timings. But he said, I'm around today if you want someone to show you.
All right.
So I thought, well, there's nothing better than being shown around by the guy. So cajoled my partner into allowing a third into our group.
So romantic.
So romantic. And, Dan turned up and just showed us both around, and it was fascinating. We got to see all of the things in the documentary. He explained them all in the way that he had researched them, and it gave me the opportunity to ask lots of questions. And I had lots of questions because this mystery relates to Renne Le Chateau, which is something we're both very passionate about and have done a previous video on. So I think having had that experience and knowledge of Renne Le Chateau, it really gave me the ability to kind of question some of the things he was saying, but also listen to his answers and make my own mind up. Okay. I certainly came away from it feeling that I wasn't 100% sold, but I also certainly wasn't debunking it. I felt there was some more work to be done there. The whole story hinges on Renne Le Chateau, but at the end, and if we jump to the end, he talks about Mary Magdalene being murdered and Mary Magdalene being buried in Lincoln. Now, I will put the documentary that he's done in the comment section of this video so people can go and have a look at that themselves. But how do you feel about the fact that Mary Magdalene could be buried at Lincoln?
My chortle doesn't give it away.
Well,
you know how I feel about the bloodline theories and Mary Magdalene. I apologise. I know some people are so passionate about it, but it just doesn't rock my boat. One, to actually prove that Mary Magdalene actually existed historically, trying to get a lineage of proof, no matter what documentation would have to exist, and how could you prove that was actually authentic? All those challenges go in. But I would have to concede that, of course, we know periods where we have relics, we have bodies that somebody says is Saint so-and-so, and over a few generations it's taken as fact. And so the possibility that there is a body believed to be Mary Magdalene somewhere buried, with people devoutly protecting it and doing all these intricate puzzles, possible. Problems, another question, possible. Even with all that, do I believe that poor old girl was murdered in Lincoln and buried in Duncan? No, doesn't. There's very tantalising little mysteries and questions, but the storyline, no, doesn't do it for me.
So what I will say is that he identified a place where he felt this had happened, a very small square on a green, and he asked the church if he could do some ground penetrating radar just to see what's below there. If there's nothing, he can walk away and say it's all a load of rubbish. However, they said yes, and then later said no just before it was going to happen. Surely there's a bit of a fish there.
You say it's such a conspiracy. Oh, they did this and they did this. Do you know, but life isn't always that way, is it? It's a case of, as you say, it was done during the Dan Brown concept. They've got a man turn up to them and say, look, I want to do this non-intrusive radar thing because I think there's something here.
Yeah.
And so the church at the lower levels go, actually, well, look, we can get onto the bandwagon for Dan Brown, we get some publicity. He's not going to do any harm, he's just going to do this. Of course, he's only going to do it the once because he's not going to think he's going to get it right. It's going to be fine. And I can understand saying, yeah, okay, good, everyone's a winner. But then I can imagine it goes to the next level up of going, well, actually, what happens if he doesn't find anything? He's more likely going to try somewhere else, which means we're going to have this guy all the time trying to dig out the place. But also, if he does find a cavern, we know under Lincoln, and he knows himself that there's tunnels under Lincoln.
There is, yeah.
He's going around a green where more than likely there are going to be graves. And so if he does find something, they've then got to deal with the concept. Right, he wants to dig it up, we've got to do so, then we've got to deny it then we look like even more conspiracy. Look, let's just knock this on the head now. Let's not have this guy doing it. It seems logical to me.
Yeah, I do understand that. One of the other things you saying about them jumping on the Dan Brown thing is very interesting because they actually filmed some of the Da Vinci Code film.
They did.
At Lincoln.
Yes.
Nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
However, it's there. And Dan Green talks about serendipity a lot through his book and through the documentary he talks about it. And, you know, these kind of coincidental things happening which aren't really coincidences. There's that. There's also the fact that one of the famed writers of the Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which brought this whole mystery to us, is called Henry Lincoln.
Oh, God, yeah.
There are lots of Lincoln things within this. And it, you know, I do feel that it's all pointing in this one direction. However, we must go back to Renne Le Chateau and talk about its links there, because this is how he lays out his whole theory.
Yeah.
Around the parchments which Baron de Saunier found within his church in France, and he answers those parchments are decoded, and he answers that decoding
from his perspective. I mean, the first part you've got from there says, it's just to obviously we're just trying to explain a point, but you said that the Saunier found his church.
Yeah.
Did he find them? Because of course the big story is because there were two other Frenchmen, more like one had already admitted these are fraudulent. We've invented these, and so we could just nail the thing on the head straight away. There it says he didn't find them. That's a separate story altogether.
Yep.
But saying that, if we ignore all that, we do have two parchments.
We do.
We do have codes within this parchment.
Yep.
And so let's at least jump to that bit.
Yeah.
And so the question then is, okay, how does he interpret those things?
Yeah.
And how is that convincing to either of us?
Well, and that's the problem. I think we need to look at those things individually and we can break those down.
Okay. Break one down for me.
So the first one to discuss is the sundial.
Oh, right, yeah.
I know you like the sundial. And I like the sundial as well because within the parchments it says 681, which is a number that it just throws out. And in Renne Le Chateau, some people say that's a spot height. Other people will attribute it to other things. Within the Lincoln mystery, Dan Green says that it's on a sundial on the side of the building, which is there, and there's a 6, 8 and a 1, evenly spaced.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that as a clue?
Well, to give a little bit more information, it's not just 6, 8, 1, is it? It's sort of like 5, 6, 7, 8, miss the 9, then 10.
Yeah.
But it's the 1, the 8, and the 6 are mysteriously spaced out, and that's the big identifier. Even though that if you take out a 7 and the 9, you've already taken out 2 of the equal spacing, so they would be equally spaced. It's if you're going to really say we're going to point at Lincoln, then you'd have all the numbers with the 9 missing. That would be a clue to me, not the sense of the spacing between numbers which would be equally spaced.
I've got 100% agree with that. I feel that, you know, it's just as those numbers fall. It's very easy, and I think that's probably a red herring, so to speak, or a way of pigeonholing that 681 to something.
Yeah, he's got to explain. It's such a poignant part of that puzzle that you've got to explain it, and that's the closest thing he's got to explain it.
Yeah. One of the other things is that there is on the side of the building there's a woman in stone looking over, and she's looking directly at the tomb that he says Mary Magdalene's in, and he points to the fact that she looks pregnant, and there are other pictures within the cathedral, which he says are also similar.
Yeah.
How do you feel about pregnant women in this? I know that you've got certainly within this mystery only, yeah.
Well, again, this. Sorry, it does vex me. These are like parts of research where now you've got to look deeper in the sense of why it's that way. We're looking at a building during the period when this was built. If a woman was having a portrait done, it was the fashion to have them portrayed as being pregnant. Because this is, it's a rare event, it's an expensive event. The best portrayal of a woman is for what was seen as a prime thing, as being a mother, of being bearing. And so you'll see across art, and artists will confirm it, in the sense of you've had these women looking pregnant because of the art. It was so influential that it actually changed the fashion. And so people were walking around it, and they used to, instead of having the fabric tied in around the back, they tied the fabric around the front to make themselves look pregnant. I mean, there's a famous Van Dyck painting where the lady's in green with her husband and she's sitting there with this plump in the front. And the artists, historians are saying, no, we don't know if she's pregnant or not because that is the fashion at the time. Right. So for her to actually being, she's Mary Magdalene, she is pregnant, bearing the child of Christ, no. No,
and I think again I would agree with that. I think it's very easy to try and attribute things that you're trying to pigeonhole into your own.
Because that's the other thing. He also goes back to the Shepherds of Arcadia, doesn't he? The second one where he's saying, the shepherdess, she's clearly pregnant. And he goes, no, she's got this loose thing. I don't see any pregnancy in there at all. No,
another one that I find very strange is that under one of the seats where the choir sit, there is a carving of a horse.
Yeah.
And him showing me, I was just fascinated because in the documentary you see it, you don't really see where it is, and it just seems in a random place. It seems. Why would you do that? Why would you have that there? And that's something that really got me.
So is it actually in a random place, like in a bunch of seats?
And it's just a bunch of seats, and it's one of the seats.
One of the seats.
No.
Okay,
None of the others have anything underneath either.
Really?
No.
Okay, so there's one of that's a mystery. I can understand that. But the value he attributes to it, I find questionable, because of course he then has a mathematical thing, doesn't it? There's certain studs on it.
Yeah, there's 4 on one side, 7 on the other, and a cross leg. The horse is cross legged because it's kind of falling. Yeah, and so he's turning around and say, and you multiply those numbers and he gets a significant number. Fabulous, but again, looking at the building, as I say, 1100s, the carving, we're looking at something around about 1500, something like that. Yeah.
But mathematically, look at the history of mathematics. The first time that the actual cross to symbolise something being times was the 17th century.
Right. Okay.
So you're looking at a symbol that some carving person is like 400 years before the symbol's actually been adopted. It makes no sense. It's 200 years, 400 years before the symbol actually meant to be times.
Yeah, it's very odd, and I would love to do some more research into how that got there. I mean, maybe that's in the history books, just to see.
Possibly, I mean,
why it's there and how it, what significance it has.
It could be, as I say, if it were, it's a shame it's not a seat of significance, because it could be someone who did sit there and it was his family's emblem, like fallen horse or a motto. His name meant fallen horse, and so he had his special seat. Yep. He couldn't have it on the outside, so it went underneath.
One of the other weird things is the dog on the plate. Now, in the stained glass, there's this big sort of checkerboard, and they say it's like
it's a 64 square thing.
Yeah, 64 squares with sort of circles within them and different depictions. And almost centrally, there is one of Jesus.
Yeah.
I think he's sitting at the Last Supper, but it's sort of a portrait.
Yeah.
And he has a plate in front of him, and on that plate is a dog. Although I don't think you think it's a dog, do you?
Well, I don't think it's categorically there. Yes, it could be a roasted dog. It could be. It looks like one out of The Simpsons. It's quite a scrawny thing that's laid across. And there is another carving, isn't there, where there's a dog there.
Yeah, somewhere else in the building there is a carving with a dog.
Exactly, but are we judging it on scale? Because we're looking at a piece of art where they didn't use perspective size. So it could be a deer put in front there, or it could be something just abstract of being food there. But of course, we're going back to places where families paid for the stuff to be done. And so it's weird for the dogs to be there, but dogs were concepts of healers. The tradition was if you cut yourself, the dog licked your wound, and it was part of medicine at that point. I don't see anything. It doesn't seem to relate. Oh no, you say it's got something to do with
Well, he says that it's the dog represents the dog star, which is Sirius, which has a Masonic meaning. And
does it?
Well, again, I think that flows back into other types of mysteries. And so I think it's difficult. I don't quite understand why the dog's there.
Yeah.
I do personally think it either is a dog or it's something very strange. Whatever it is, it seems odd to be on Jesus's plates, to have this kind of very small animal. But it all, again, all these little things are adding up to just a higher strangeness for me. Yeah. One of the others, which is very well known, is in Lincoln. It's very well known for the Lincoln Imp. And the imp is a small kind of demon, or this kind of stone.
It's like furry with his leg, almost like the inverted fool on the tarot cards, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, he has his leg crossed, and he's on one of the pillars overviewing the cathedral. He relates that to the demon guardian, which they talk about in the Renne Le Chateau mystery, and to me that does fit.
For any demon, you go to any cathedral, you'll have depictions of demons on the gargoyles, etc. It's not unique enough. It's certainly not. But the thing I would have to concede is you're saying something about there is a Masonic door knocker in.
Yes. So before this episode, I sent Dan Green an email. I've been in contact with him for many years about this, and I sent him an email. I said, "What's the latest? Yeah. What's actually happening at the moment? Has anything else been discovered?" And he said the last thing that he'd really given him any interest in this was a picture I'd sent him 2 years ago, which I'd completely forgotten about, was in the main temple at Duke Street in London, which is for the 33rd degree Freemasonry, the ancient accepted rites. On their main Masonic door there for the big temple downstairs, the door knocker is the Lincoln Imp.
Which I can't deny. It is tantalising. But it could be a case of we can't have the square and compasses because with the advancement of the degree. So let's have a little demon on there. The most common one is I've got a little statue of the Lincoln Imp. And I have no reference to a Freemason at all. It's something I got when I was a kid. But no, there's nothing yet tangible. I think there are unique things, but how we spread them together, I don't actually see as something that's continuous. There's no real continuity of one to the other. It has to go off to some other strange tangent and come down to something else. It's too abstract.
Yeah, and looking at, as we do with Renne Le Chateau, we then start looking at the wider area.
Yeah.
There's very close the town of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
The only one in England. And is it close to that for some reason, Mary Magdalene, Jerusalem?
Would actually be at Jerusalem. Why would Mary Magdalene actually? I don't know. Lincoln was one of the major pilgrimage sites, and I know he makes one of the statements of it's parallel to Jerusalem because it was a walled city or walled town. I'm from Galston. My neighbouring town was Great Yarmouth. That was walled. Right. My nearest city was Norwich. That was walled. Yeah. It's not unique. But being one of the central starting points for pilgrimage, it's not a real stretch of the imagination that on the route that's coming in, someone's like, right, we've got all these people, how do we get them to stop here? This is the Jerusalem place, stop and refresh yourselves before you go into Lincoln. Oh, it's great, we'll stay at Jerusalem, we did. It's a sales thing. Another thing is you've got Lincoln Cathedral, 12th century. The earliest records you've got of this village town of Jerusalem is not until the 15th century.
Right. Okay.
So you've got something that's got to be sustained for 300 years, 400 years to actually hold on to it. No.
Not having it. Okay. Continuing in that wider area, Temple Bruer.
Yeah, now, this is where you got me.
Yeah, Temple Bruer is an old Knights Templar preceptory. It's just a building, and it's our old friends, the Knights Templar again. They pop up everywhere. And it's a sort of rectangular building in the middle of nowhere. Very hard to get to. You can go there, but I believe it's on public land, but it sort of doesn't feel like it is.
You're not breaking into it.
No, I'm not breaking in again, no. But, I've been there with our good friend Rich and had a look. And on the side of that building, there is this cutting into the wall, which looks identical. It looks very, very similar to a shape which is on the Renne Le Chateau parchments.
Yeah.
And that's carved in stone.
Now, when I first saw that, I was going, "Oh, this is ridiculous." It says it looks like the apex of a roof, and when you look at it on the tower, it's like, "What are you guys talking about? It's where a roof used to be, and it's still they've just carved it into the wall." But then you quite rightly pointed out that there's a window that's not even central to the top of the oak; it's off to the side, and they would have had to cut through the frame thing. So, okay, yeah, fair point. Then there's this other line that comes out. That's a sliding roof. I have to say, it is more of a enigma than you first look at. It could be very bad stone. Need roof, lads. There's a window. It's not the first time that's happened. See me fit a kitchen, you'll have a similar sort of thing. But it could be that. But it is bizarre. If you relate it to the parchments, it does overlap. It's not identical. There's a few bits that overextend. And you do have to invert it 180 degrees. Yeah. But if you do all that, it matches.
It does match, yeah. That really got me when I saw it, actually. I saw it and I instantly thought, wow.
Yeah.
That's something quite tangible. But there's also the door of Temple Bruer.
Yes.
Which, was an original stonework door and now has a kind of shape carved out of it, which looks like to try and get something in or out.
Maybe it's just a fat monk.
Maybe it is.
Father Brian can't get through that door anymore. Let's just try and make it wonder.
I mean, what Dan Green charges is the fact that this could have been a treasure. This could be the Knights Templar coming back with their treasure, running away from France, and they've got to quickly sequester it somewhere. And
so the way they quickly hide it is not that, it won't fit there, let's put it over there. Right, lads, let's make the door wider, because no one will think of looking whether we just widen the door. No reason. No, it's just ridiculous. I mean, even if it's a case of if it was already housed there and they built the stone thing around it, you're still trying to get people to convince that, right, okay, let's just decorate this, put a cover of the Ark of the Covenant, we're going to get it dusty again. No, it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but there still has to be a reason why they've done that to the door.
True. I mean, there is possibility they did build something ornate, like a great piece of furniture. You just did not want it. How are we going to get it out, lads? And there's only so many legs you could take off it. But it could even, how about even damage? If somebody was trying to actually get into it, taking out the lock bit, taking out what might be the hinge bit, I don't know. But the idea of it, they've widened it to get something... a treasure in as quickly as they could. That was the decision they came up with. No, sorry.
No, I mean, there is still so much to do on this subject. I am really passionate having researched this for this film. I've sort of got my mojo back on it, and I feel that I'll probably take another trip there soon. I've got some of the old documents that Dan Green has passed me, and I've also got the documents that were hidden away in the library there in Lincoln, which I don't believe many people have. I've got original copies of those. So I'm going to start looking into it a bit more, and hopefully we'll have a number 2 where I can show you some more interesting.
Yeah, you go, look at this. This is far more interesting.
But it is a fantastic subject. It's been a lot of fun talking about it. Go and get the book because it's definitely interesting. Watch the documentary. It's a lot of fun, and I also think there is probably something to be found in it.
There, as I say, there's enigmas there. There are questions. It's just the answers he gets to it. I just don't give any credence to.
Well, if you have answers, please leave them in the comments. We'll be more than happy to hear them. Like and subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon.